All right. Well, we want to welcome everybody to our ASEA 5 presentation. This is March 17th. This is St. Patty's Day around the world, and you'll notice that we're decorated in green. I'm sure that was by design. That's it. Yep. Behind Dr. Ray, that will count just fine. So we hope everybody has a safe and happy St. Patrick's Day, as well as they'll enjoy this evening here with us. We excuse Jim and Ann Glenn and Dr. Maureen Hayes, who are both away with their family on some special occasions tonight. And my name is Dr. Lee Osler. I'm a general dentist in the state of Washington. And I have with me, helping me host, is Dr. Ray Dixon from Phuket, Thailand, who's almost an American. He spent the last month or two in the United States touring. And so we're glad that he's back safe and sound. But we have with us our special guest tonight is Donna Lynn Dominguez, who is a now retired midwife in the great state of Texas. And as I understand it, she was probably the best and biggest and largest and most awesome midwife, the most significant midwifery practice in the state. We have her with us, and we're going to have a delightful conversation tonight about her experience with Asea, what this has done for her and her family. And I'm sure we're going to get into how this relates to, what she used to do professionally. But also we're going to talk about what she's now doing professionally and why that happened. So welcome, Donna Lynn.
Thank you so much, Lee.
We're glad to have you with us.
I'm so honored to be here. This is always so much fun.
Well, we love having you, and so do those who tune in and watch. If we could have you maybe start off, I think that, we've got some people, I'm sure, on the call or who will be watching this later who may not know Donnellyn Dominguez and how wonderful and famous and beautiful she is. Would you introduce us to yourself and what brought you to this game that we call Asea, and what was compelling about it that caught your attention? If you could start there, I think let's catch that up first.
Okay, Lee, thank you very much. And thank you for the kind introduction. I'm not the biggest or the best or anything else, but I've got some people that are partial to me. So that's sweet. I have been a midwife for 18 years. I owned a birth center 10 of those years, and delivered over 1,000 babies. So that was my life, my passion, the call that I felt like I was answering, and I loved it. I worked very hard, and of course the hours in midwifery are long and unpredictable. About 2015, I discovered something that was not normal on my skin. Went to the specialty doctor, and they did some tests and said, this is very bad news and we need to schedule surgery right away. And so I'm thinking it's just a little spot, this is no big deal. But the surgery was pretty extensive, did a lot of damage. They took a lymph node in that process, and the whole thing took me about 6 weeks to recover from, but we got a good report and said everything's fine now. So I was happy, limped for a long time, tore up the other leg or the knee. It was bone on bone from the, stress. And then a year later, I was drying after my shower one morning, and I noticed a little marble-sized lump above that incision. And I thought, I don't remember that being there before. Maybe I should have that checked out. So I made an appointment, got in about a week later, and by then it was 3 little lumps. And so he ran some more tests and said, I'm so sorry. Things have reappeared, and they were just going to cut me again. I went, nope, that was too hard to recover from. I want you to look around and make sure there's not anything else that you're going to want to cut off in a minute. So they changed doctors, actually, went to another specialty doctor, and they did more tests and said, we're so sorry. This is now, these bad cells are now in your lungs, and you are the worst level that you could be. Your prognosis is fair, but we can give you an extra 8 to 13 months if you do this medical protocol, 4 treatments, one every 6 weeks. They're $150,000 each, and you'll have an extra 8 to 13 months. And my husband and I just looked at each other like, is this really happening? But he said, you're gonna do this. He told me that I was. So I agreed and took the first 3 of those treatments, but the third one killed my pituitary gland, and which is not unusual for the very harsh medications that were being used. But I didn't expect it. So when you don't have a pituitary gland, you don't make cortisol, and you can't live without cortisol. So I ended up in ICU. When I made it through that and got out and saw the doctor again, he said, we won't give you the 4th treatment because you wouldn't survive it. But you do have to do one of these bags of medication every month for the rest of your life, because things are quiet right now, but they won't stay that way. And as soon as it gets active again, it'll take you out pretty quick. And so my hard-headed response was, I don't know how crazy you think I am, but you just nearly killed me, and I'm not doing any more of that medicine. I'm a midwife. I'll find something natural. That's what I use. So I began to hunt, and for 16 months, I tried another $20,000 worth of alternative things that you, Dr. Dixon, use, and I use. And I thought surely there's something out there, but I never felt better one day of that entire time. And the whole time I was having to go to bed at 6 p.m. because that's when the medicine that they gave me wore off, that replaced the cortisol, the fake cortisol. So it would wear off at 6, and I had to just literally almost crawl to bed. I couldn't go any further. Cried when I had to get up and go to a birth because I didn't feel like it. Paid a lot of people to help me during that 16 months because I was not doing well. So in August, I had to have surgery on the bad knee, which was a bit of a disaster because then it wouldn't heal because of medicine I was on, because I didn't have to make cortisol. It's sort of a negative chain reaction. So I was getting more and more depressed, more and more despondent, more and more just skeptical about everything. The knee that would not get well was uncomfortable all the time. And I had to keep working. I own the business. You don't take off sick leave. You don't just go, I believe I'll stay home 6 weeks till I feel better. So I worked every day, went to bed at 6 p.m., got up and worked again. And I was delivering 6 to 16 babies. So my weeks might be 60 hours long. They might be 90 hours long. But it was hard. It was a dark time. And I was trying to hide everything so that none of my clients knew I was having a problem. And I was hiding from my family, my grandchildren. I didn't want them worried. So I did a lot of fake smiling for that 16 months. But by December, I was in pretty bad shape emotionally and mentally, because when you have that dark cloud over you, you always wonder, will I see another birthday? Will I see my boys graduate from college? What's ahead? Even though I was trying very hard to stay positive, I was not doing a good job of it. So Jim Glenn, who is the person above the person who actually gave me the product in May, her name was Angela. She precious girl, but I think she was brand new. She didn't know what she had, so she didn't explain it to me. She put me on the product in May, put me on auto ship, and sent home a bottle. When I got home and tasted it, it tasted like a swimming pool. And I did not like network marketing. I had my hands full with what I was doing. I didn't want another job. I didn't like a lot of the methods in that industry, although I knew some of the best products on the market came that way. So from May until December, I had the product and I couldn't remember to turn off auto ship. I was really busy and I wasn't exactly in my right mind. I'd see a box delivered and think, I have got to get that stopped, but I didn't do it. So Jim had tried to reach out to me that entire 7 months. He would text me, he would email me, he would call me, and I wouldn't answer the phone. I wouldn't respond to the text. I was like, nope, not going there, not going to do that. He invited me to the 2017 convention that was, I think it was right here in Fort Worth. And that's when they came out with the Target Lab study. It would have been good had I been there. But no, I was too stubborn. So December came. I had ignored calls and been rude the whole time. But that day that he called in December, I was especially low. And I guess God just nudged me and said, you better answer the phone this time. So I did. And I actually told him the truth, which also surprises me. I didn't know him. So I wouldn't normally talk to a stranger about personal things. But he said, how are you doing? I went, I'm not doing well. And he said, are you taking the Redox? I went, no, I'm not taking that stuff. It tastes like a swimming pool. I'm not going to drink that stuff. I don't even know what it is. And he said, well, let me tell you. And then he explained what redox signaling molecules are, that they're innate to our body. And he said it's 100% non-toxic. If you put it in your body and replace the missing redox signaling molecules, your body will know how to heal itself. And I went, well, that sounds too good to be true. So I'm sure it is. But I'm desperate. I am desperate at this point. And I've got 7 cases. So I'm going to drink it just to show you it won't work. Just like everything else hasn't worked. And that was honestly my bad attitude. I apologize to Jim all the time. He knows I'm sorry I acted so bad. But thank goodness he didn't hang up on me and leave me on my own. So I began to drink. My goal was to drink it up and tell him it didn't work. I had 28 bottles. So I said, okay, if a little's good, more's got to be better. He said it's non-toxic, so I'll drink this stuff. So I started with 2 ounces twice a day for about 3 days. And then every 3 days or so, I increased the amount I was drinking until I was up to almost a quart a day, 28, 32 ounces a day. 3 weeks later, I was wrapping Christmas presents and I was sitting in the floor just having a great time with Christmas music and wrapping. And my husband walked in and said, do you know what time it is? I went, no. He said, it's 11 o'clock. I went, it's 11 o'clock and I'm still awake and I feel good? He said, it's 11 o'clock. So I went to bed praying. This is the honest to goodness truth. I tell it every time I tell my story. I was praying, God, please don't tease me. Don't let me get my hopes up and then be disappointed again, because I knew emotionally and mentally I could not have withstood another disappointment. But I promised, if you're using these molecules to help my body know how to heal itself, like Jim said, I'll tell everybody and I'll give you all the credit. I had prayed for 16 months. So I felt good the next day and the next week. My 21-year-old student said she couldn't keep up with me, and I was thrilled because I finally had the energy to kind of do my work. And I was, nearly a year and a half behind. So 2 weeks later, that knee that wouldn't get well, I was going down the stairs, bad leg first. They called me to come down. I had been rubbing the gel because When she signed me up, she did a case of Redox and a tube of gel. So I had 7 of those too. And every time I put it on, I thought, this is so dumb. It doesn't smell like anything, doesn't feel like anything. And we didn't know about 3 times in 5 minutes then. So it didn't take the pain away to put one application on, the discomfort. And so, but I was doing it twice a day to use up the gel. And that morning they called and said, you've got to come downstairs quick. Somebody's here that's got to see you. And so I wasn't thinking. And I trotted to the bottom of those stairs like I was 15 years old. And when I got down there, I went, oh my goodness. My knee does not feel bad at all. It's not swollen. It's not stiff for the first time in 5 months since the operation. So then I got excited because I'm thinking, how different are these 2 arenas? A pituitary gland, little bitty hormone in the top of my head, and a little bitty gland that produces a hormone in the top of my head, and a artificial joint in my knee. You can't get much more opposite. So I thought, I guess he's right. I guess it does help your body correct anything that's not functioning properly to the best of its ability. And it does it in priority order because our bodies are biointelligent. So it was like that was the day I believed. And I got so excited. I jumped and ran and talked to all the midwives in my birth center and ran up and down stairs for them, grabbed every client that I had and almost shook them. You've got to hear my miracle. And that was really the beginning of my team, because people would go, wow, I want to feel as good as you do. Do you think it would work for fill in the blank, whatever they had? And I knew nothing. So I just tell them, I don't know. They say it works for anything that involves cells, and everything involves cells. And it's guaranteed for the first 30 days. So try it. They'd get results, and then they tell somebody. So by the time I even figured out what a smart wallet was, I had a pretty significant check, and I was shocked. That was not my goal. I wasn't trying to make money, didn't care anything about that. I had a business, but it changed my life in a lot of ways. And then I thought, well, if I've got something that's 100% non-toxic and helps your body correct anything with cells, why am I not using this on my pregnant girls? Because what else do I have on my shelf that's 100% non-toxic? Nothing. So I began to educate them. The bottle says don't use it unless you're under the supervision of a doctor. I was the doctor. So I would educate them about what it is, what it does. I practiced informed consent, which means they get to choose what they do or don't do. And so I would teach them all about it. And about 25% of the girls on my books said, I want that. I want to use that. And those were the best pregnancies, deliveries, and postpartums that I've ever had out of 1,000.
So Donnellyn, that's a phenomenal story. I've heard that a couple of times, and that's a moving, wonderful experience that you have. I'd like to come back in a few minutes and have you expound on what you were just talking about with, your observations about the effect that this had, yay and nay, or, those who didn't, those who did, within that center. I'd like to kick it over to Dr. Ray. We've been talking about some pretty interesting, stuff here that's new to the scene. This is we call it a new breakthrough. And there may be some watching this for the first time that don't understand. Maybe could you walk us through what it is that Donnellyn's describing, and from kind of the effect that this has on the body, and maybe some of the mechanism for, why it does what it does.
Oh, absolutely. Similar to you, Dr. Lee, I'm just astounded as I re-listen to Donnellyn's story. It's almost like I must have missed that last time. The depths to which the multitude of problems. In fact, highlights extremely well what you've asked me to explain. I mean, how can it affect the pituitary gland, which in turn affects the adrenal cortex to produce cortisol and issues therefrom, as opposed to an osteoarthritic destroyed knee? And really, we've got to go back to basics and fundamentals, in my view. And the fundamental is the body is the healer. The human body, the immune system, the varying systems of the body are designed to protect the body, heal the cells of the body, and keep us healthy. Every organ is made from cells. So you are made from cells, up to 100 trillion. Sometimes they say 75 trillion. I don't think we need to get lost in the zeros. There's a lot of cells. 20 billion die every day and need to be replaced, and hopefully by healthy versions of what they're replacing. Sadly, with age, there are deficiencies in redox signaling molecules which begin from puberty. Now, the whole area of redox signaling molecules is new. And when I say new, I mean the last 20, 25 years. 25 years in science is like yesterday. It takes a long time for knowledge to unravel. And even more time it took before these redox signaling molecules were able to be stabilized. And for the first time in human history, made available in a supplement, I might add. So that backstory goes back to 1997, 98, when they discovered nitric oxide, which is the first redox signaling molecule. Now, we knew about some of the others before, but they weren't called redox signaling molecules. They were oxidants, for example, free radicals known to be formed in the Krebs cycle of the mitochondria when energy is produced. And they were believed to be more damaging, like flak, if you like, or exhaust coming out of the mitochondria as energy was made. It was only after 1998 that the unraveling of, just a moment, these are actually critical to the health of the cell. They're not just damaging. And then that story further unraveled with the understanding of reductants, which is one component, as opposed to oxidants, which in turn help to regulate the production of master antioxidants inside the human body. The antioxidant story had unraveled over the previous 50 years, where we were relying or promoting the use of all manner of antioxidants coming in from the outside, orally, if you like, from fruits and vegetables, and whether it be carotenoids, polyphenols, vitamin E, C, zinc, selenium. That had unraveled previously as a means of countering oxidative damage. What hadn't been known, or so much emphasized, it is increasingly now, of course, is that some of the masters are really internally produced, like glutathione, superoxide dismutase, etc. So fortunately, the whole picture is coming together much more clearly now. So the reason that this product of redox signaling supplement is able to affect such a diverse range of conditions, or as Donnellyn said, fill in the blank, is because all those conditions depend on malfunctioning cells. And the redoxome, as you yourself, Dr. Lee, have unraveled extraordinarily well in your book, Redox Matters, underpin everything else in the cell. There is no chemical signaling molecule that has ever been discovered that is deeper than the redoxome, the redox signaling molecules. They are the deepest ever discovered. Much deeper than hormones, much deeper than prostaglandins and leukotrienes and all the other signaling molecules, including neurotransmitters. They're all made by cells. What actually affects every cell in the human body, and every cell is dependent on it, is redox signaling molecules, which is why when we're able to supplement and make up for the deficiencies of wear and tear and age, that we get such remarkable changes in any condition that the person may or may not be suffering from. And at this juncture, it's a good one, I think, as you're about to remind me, Lee, I'm sure, to make the disclaimer of Asea. Asea as a company does not claim to treat, cure, or prevent any disease or even diagnose disease. They are simply providing the body with what it needs to heal itself. The reason we need an external source of supplement is there is nothing else ever been discovered that can replenish those levels from peak puberty. Nothing. There are many things which will enhance the redox molecules you'll still make, because we do make them, or we would all be dead, to work better, for you to function better. Exercise will increase the production of mitochondria and skeletal muscle cells and cardiac myocytes, cardiac heart cells. So yes, you will then make more redox signaling molecules. In fact, so much so that most of the benefits of exercise are now believed to be due to the extra redox signaling molecules that we make. But even that does not compensate for the decline of 1% per year from peak puberty on average. So this is the first time in human history a supplement has been available to replenish those levels back up to their optimum levels for your health. And that's why this is such an extraordinary journey.
Ray, that is a fabulous overview. I appreciate your depth of understanding of that. Donna Lynn, and with that, with the disclaimer, I want to go back to Donna Lynn and let's talk about your experiences as you saw it. I don't know that we need to dwell on it a whole lot, but you certainly know a whole lot more about childbirth than I do. Certainly Dr. Ray, because you've done 1,000 births, and you've seen the effects of this in a group or a subset of your women who chose to participate in using it in their pre-care, as opposed to those who chose not to, which is the standard out there. So could you reflect on that and just kind of what were your observations now, especially looking back?
It was all good. I mean, I'm so amazed, even looking back now, when I hear that a lady is choosing to use Redox, or has during a pregnancy. I always ask them if I can have them get their records so I can look at them because of the amazing difference that I saw. I kept very careful records. I'm not a statistician, but I kept careful records in each category that I felt like was important, and the ones I saw a difference when in their pregnancy and in their birth. Pregnancy compromises the system. I mean, everything is kind of strained. Your liver is stressed, your digestion system, the whole system is strained. Your lungs are compromised. There's no room for anything when you're growing a baby. So to be able to give them something, and they took the minimal amount, almost all of them, and it just made everything, help their body to normalize the process, which we know, like you said, it doesn't heal, prevent, cure anything. But what it does is give our bodies the ability to work the way they should. And we've lost that ability, if for no other reason than aging, stress. Is there anybody out there that doesn't have stress? And so we know we've got the compromised situation. We know this helps normalize the function of the body. And because of that, we had beautiful pregnancies, non-complicated. And then we had deliveries that were phenomenal. My other midwife and I would be shocked every time, even though we knew what we would probably observe. But we'd be shocked at how well it went. Everything about birth worked better. Even the time it took to have the baby. We did averages on people who were not on it and girls who were. And the average labor for first-time moms and even multips, moms that have had more babies, is somewhere between 18 and 24 hours from the start to finish. Now, that's the average. Some do very, very much faster than that. Some do longer than that. I've been at a birth for 40 hours, more than once. But That was the average. The girls that were on Redox, including the first timers, and I had several first time moms, the average was 7 to 9 hours of labor. And they'd have these beautiful births. And we'd be going, wow, did you see that? And so we've got lots of detailed statistics that I am going over with some of the scientists at the corporation. And I'm very excited to have their input. But it was significant and delightful. And then the postpartum, it says on the bottle, this is a hormone modulator. Postpartums were smooth as glass. And that's not usually the case after pregnancy. Your hormones are a little whacked out. And it makes sense. They've been through a lot.
On that count, Donnellyn, did you find that would continue, that modulation would, like, not just in the immediate after, but, thereafter? Was that?
I am only allowed to take care of the girls for 6 weeks.
Okay.
After they deliver.
What would be your hunch, though, since you brought it up?
If they stay on the product, I know it continues.
Okay.
Some people say, okay, I'm through with the pregnancy now. I'm going to go off, and they were healthy. So that's okay if that's what they choose to do. I do have one twin mom that had the most phenomenal birth. I mean, so good. And she stayed on it for a good year. Twin moms have a little bit more of a stressful, situation, but she stayed on it, and her hormones were fabulous. She was never dealt with any of the ill effects of after having a baby. And her husband actually started using it because he got such good results. So they both stayed on it and loved it, but everybody doesn't.
So I have a question for you. You're really the thing I like about you. One of the things I like about you is you're really plain spoken. I mean, you're just so grounded. When they or anybody even today asks Donna Lynn, well, what is this stuff? How do you explain it to them?
Well, I'm pretty good with using tools. So I will send them Alan Noble's 7-minute overview. But if they want me to explain it, I tell them that redox signaling molecules are what our cells create. It's part of the Krebs cycle. If you've ever studied that, you'll see them there. But our redox signaling molecules that are created in that process signal the healthy cells in our body so that they know where to go to detect, protect, repair, or replace cells that are not functioning properly. So that's the way our body is designed to work. But as we age and are exposed to stress and toxins and pollutants and everything under the sun that we eat, breathe, and drink, including medication, over the counter, or prescription, or surgeries, or the list goes on and on. The more of all that our body is exposed to, the lesser the response, when it should be knowing exactly what to do. Some of those pathways are blocked, or more or less like a blackout in the city. So when we put the redox signaling molecules back in, our body knows what to do, where to go, how to heal. So our supplements work better. If we're on medication, that's going to work better. Everything's going to work better because our cells are signaling properly again. So I keep it pretty simple because with my girls, I wanted them to understand why I wanted them to do something. And if I gave them only the medical and scientific explanation, they would just look at me like I was crazy and go on about doing whatever they wanted to do. But if I explained the nutritional value of having them eat well and exercise and practice relaxation and drink enough water, when I broke it down so they understood it, then they were more willing to take responsibility and do it.
So you had you've tonight outlined or reviewed your personal experience, with some really serious health challenges, and you have demonstrated, the effect in a group of people that you've had some rather close relationships with and observed, their outcomes. And you made the comment that when you started all this, you never saw coming what you're doing now, because it's allowed you to do something different now that even affects the lives of more people. I don't know that you probably ever saw that, or that any of us, see that. Could you describe, so that the listener, the viewer, would understand what that transition is and what it's been like for you since you've retired?
Lee, I know there are people like me that are hard workers. I've always been a hard worker, but probably not the sharpest tool in the shed when it came to slowing down and examining what I was doing and where we were headed. I was just busy, and I never said no to a client. So I had an incredible workload. And then when my health was challenged, it was harder to get that done. So I was even less likely to look. But like I said, I hated anything to do with network marketing. And that's me. That's not because it's bad. It's actually very good. I'm on the exact opposite end of that now. But I would have never just chosen that, that was not for me. So when I got well, and I did get very well, the doctor even said 2 years later that I was a mystery to him. He didn't know why I was alive, that what I had does not get well or go away. And yet my scans are perfect, my labs are perfect, and he didn't understand. So I had tried to tell him about redox signaling molecules. He didn't want to hear it. So in this process, like I said, when I got probably the first smart wallet check, it was about 3 months in, because I don't check email very well either. I was too busy, and I do everything with my girls on text. So Jim Glenn actually called and said, "Are you ever going to set up your smart wallet?" And I said, "What's a smart wallet?" And he said, "They're trying to pay you." And I'm like, "They're going to pay me?" I mean, I've been in, I've had associationships with network marketing companies before because the products are good. And I would, pass them on, share them, let people buy from me when they knew what I was doing and if they wanted to, but hadn't ever really worked it. And the biggest check I'd probably ever gotten maybe was $25, maybe $50. Not a lot of money. So that's kind of what I was expecting. In fact, I wasn't even really thinking about it. I was just telling people my miracle, and I was really excited to be alive. And so I opened that smart wallet, and I was shocked. I was shocked at how much money was there. And of course, it was several weeks accumulation, but still, it was so much more than I expected. So I went, you know what? Maybe I should be paying attention here. Maybe I should be a little bit intentional about this. Maybe I should figure out how this works, because I will eventually, I assume, have to retire. I was in my late 60s then, but I thought I'd probably have to, or even want to, retire eventually. So maybe I should pay attention. So I did learn then a little bit about how to put people in, and, placement and ranks and so on and so forth. But 3 years later, my husband had a health challenge that same year that I got well. And that really was challenging. It was hard because he worked for me. He handled all of my insurance. He handled all the administrative duties. He kept the birth center running while I took care of the girls. And then he couldn't. So our grandson stepped in and helped, and he did an amazing job, but it was hard. And I wanted to retire. So I began to try to sell my business and go away. And that took about a year and a half. So at the end of 3 years of owning the birth center and working the business very part-time, because I told you how busy I was, very part-time, I had achieved diamond level in the summer of 2020, and I sold the birth center at the end of 2020. And I'm like, well, good, you know. And I knew we had some income from Asea. I hadn't figured out all of the details of that. You know, you pay taxes on the year before, not that year. So the next year, when we did our tax return, I was shocked to realize that my income had stayed the same. My expenses had been much less, not owning a birth center and property and all of the expenses of employees and, you know, it just goes up, supplies, it goes on and on and on. So all of that was gone, but bottom line, the income was the same. And I just began to think, had this not happened to me, although it was such a dark, hard time, had that not happened to me, I would have retired with Social Security. That's about $1,200 a month. Not much money to live on. And shame on me for not being better prepared. We did own property, and we still do, but you don't sell property the minute you retire because you need the money. It doesn't work that way. So, and of course, this was during COVID, 2020, so not much was happening anywhere. So looking back, I'm so grateful. I obviously wasn't smart enough to plan it this way, but I had some divine guidance, I guess, because that happened. My body was enabled to heal. I got my health and my life back. I was able to work and build this on a very part-time basis, which is not even a possibility with most businesses, to do such part-time work and it be so successful financially. And then because I went through all of that and was able to retire, now I can do this full time. And I have met people all over the world that I absolutely love and have been able to mentor and help people with their health and their health challenges. I feel like that's why I stayed alive, is because God knew I've got a big mouth and that I would help people. If, you know, if he let me live, I'll help people. I am so grateful to have the time to do that. So it's such a 360 from being so close to the edge of not even here anymore to being healthy, feel like I'm aging backwards. I have a very successful business now that I'm so grateful for. I don't take credit for it. I mean, this business is organic. It grows itself because our product is good. Our company is amazing. The people are so sweet and provide such, you know, community that you want to be a part of it. So all of those things get the credit, mostly God, but here I am looking back going, I'm so glad I went through that. I'm so glad, because I wouldn't be here doing this today had I not gone through that. And that lifestyle was fine, but you can't stay up all night all the time in your 70s. And I like to sleep now. This is nice. And it's nice to feel better every year and watch what this does. And it's nice to help people in my age bracket have hope, because a lot of them have to live on Social Security or fixed income.
You have such an incredible story both ways. Dr. Ray, you've got one too. Would you comment for us? Because I know you at first, I don't know that you had really any struggles, but you weren't intending this to go in the direction that you're now pursuing it when it happened. You were just You were the science nerd who wanted to make people be healthy. And now look what you're doing. Could you chip in on that?
Sure. It's interesting. I mean, Donnellyn's story is just extraordinary. It really is remarkable. But I'm an example of someone that came from the opposite background. I'd given up looking for what I call a holy grail healing product. I'd spent years with herbal medicine, nutritional medicine, homeopathy, chiropractic, dry needling acupuncture. And look, I'd had a great career. I'd had over 40 years in full-time practice. My stress was more the consultation room all day, 12 hours a day. I didn't see it then as a major stress. It was more a confinement. So a lack of freedom. I didn't get to travel as much as I would have liked. It was always short 2-week grabs. But I had no health issues. My health was extremely good. I felt well. I slept well. It was first mentioned to me by a patient friend of mine, Lorraine Bavard, who is a past 5 times heavyweight karate champion of the world. I knew the whole family. I treated them. She'd mentioned about a remarkable result with rogue cells in a friend of hers. I'd never heard of redox signaling molecules. I figured if it was of any substance whatsoever, I would have heard of it through practitioner channels. I never did. So I had a nice lunch and paid no more attention. I regret that now for the reasons that Donnellyn, if we paid attention maybe earlier, we would be further down the track and would have helped more people. And it was 2 years after that I'd retired myself. Also, I was semi-retiring to live in Phuket, Thailand, where I am now. And in fact, this is the shop floor. I have a consult room behind that shelf behind me, another room where I still see some chiropractic and acupuncture patients there. And I figured I will just semi-retire. I'd sort of lost hope of ever finding something that was universal. I gave up looking. And then Lorraine came on a holiday with her 2 daughters. So she kind of had a captive audience here. I couldn't run away. We were together for 2 weeks, 24/7 almost. So I looked at the results. I started looking at the results in the results sites, the testimonial sites. They were extraordinary. There's nothing short of miraculous. And I'm just thinking, no way. I'm seeing countless of my failures that are people I'd tried to help in my life and serious conditions. And in that 2-year interim where I didn't pay attention, in fact, I lost one of my best friends from lung cancer. And yet I then would look at the science. That's when I thought, well, you better take a serious look at what this is about because you don't know about it. And then I always say to people, practitioners don't practice from the current research. They practice from what they learned long ago from the past. And so was I. So as I looked at Dr. Gary Samuelson, the atomic medical physicist that stabilized the molecules, I looked back at the Nobel Prizes that were awarded across a few years in chemistry, physiology, and on redox. And I thought, wow, well, you didn't know because you weren't up with the latest research, which is normal. I consider that normal for most practitioners. And then I would go back to these amazing result stories thinking, whoa, I need to know more. And a little self-interest comes in here. I might have been perfectly well. I was on no drug medications whatsoever, but I know about aging. I know about disease processes with aging. I taught pathophysiology. I know the statistics. And I thought, I don't want any of that. So if this is anywhere near as good as I'm reading, I want to be on that product. And so I immediately joined in July 2018. I've never stopped using it ever since. I never will stop using it. It's the most remarkable health product, in my humble opinion, that's ever existed on planet Earth. And so I also, like Donnellyn, I've got a big mouth too. So I just keep sharing it and people keep saying, well, tell me more. And over time, I've ended up across 25 countries in the world. My greatest network team growth is in the US right now. And that came from one gentleman who came to see me in this office over 2.5 years or so ago. who'd lost his memories. And in 6 weeks, they all came back using Asea Redox. Now, I might add, if I may, just briefly, Lee, that it's very important for the listeners to appreciate with a supplement like this, we don't have a test for how deficient you are. We know you are deficient because of the science of mitochondrial density and peak efficiency, which is puberty. We know the average decline is 1% per year in that efficiency and numbers of mitochondria. Now, we're talking trillions and trillions and trillions of molecules per second, per minute, per hour, per day, that, as Donnellyn said, are essential for healthy cell signaling and for cells to be healthy. So how do we know how much somebody needs? And I've been pondering this a little bit more lately, because if you get that amount potentially wrong, and I found on my recent travels that a lot of people are underestimating how much they need to take, and they just need a little bit more. And that little bit more could make a huge difference, not just to the quality of their life, but possibly to their survival. So I just wanted to perhaps mention that although most people start on the 2 ounces twice a day, the cup that comes with Asea, note what Donnellyn did. She approached the entire bottle a day. So this is 16 of these cups, not 2. So when I teach your magic is between 2 of those cups a day and that bottle a day, the 16 cups a day. Your results, your miracle is in that range. And I routinely give a little bit of extra guidance on that. I'm not saying everybody needs the bottle a day, but if you have life-threatening challenges, Donnellyn essentially had been prognostically told she was not going to survive in all likelihood. Well, if I have anybody in that category, I'm advising a bottle a day, 16 of those cups a day. And likewise, when a person's lost their memory and have lost their identity and are crying every day and depressed, I consider that a pretty serious health challenge. That person went on a bottle a day. Everyone else can be between 4 and 6 cups a day, 8 ounces, 12 ounces. They can get fantastic results. And that doesn't mean to suggest some people do not get great results on 2 cups a day, 4 ounces. It's just not what I recommend the most, because that's not where everyone will find their miracle. So I just thought I would mention a little bit about you all will get your magic, your miracle, if you find it within that dosage range of using Asea. And when you put that cost up against $150,000 per treatment that Donnellyn mentioned having 3 and was advised to have 6, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, this is such a great call. Both of you are so inspiring. You're both are self-confessed big mouths in terms of how you tell people about this. And Donnellyn was talking earlier, when we were talking earlier today, she says she just talks to people and they tell me what they need. They tell me what their problem is. They'll tell me why they want it. And I thought that's such an interesting idea that I'd like to throw out to both of you, because we tend to think that we've got to have the perfect script. We have to have the perfect understanding before that we can go out there. But maybe you could both give your version of the idea of when I'm talking to people, they tell me why they need it, in both the health as well as the business. Donna Lynn, you want to go first?
Sure. I just talk to people. I have talked to people ever since I got this, because, again, I'm so grateful to be able to be healthy and be active. But I start conversations and I ask questions. And when you go out with the intentionality of helping people and ask for the right people to be put in front of you, again, divine interventions, divine appointments, which I do, then when I'm talking to people and asking questions and just trying to learn about them, they will always tell me why they need redox, and everybody needs it. So you just listen for that open door, and it's very easy to step through it, because you can always say, if I had something that could help you, would you be interested in finding out about it? And I promise you, every time they say yes. Now, they may not become your associate. You may send them information and never hear from them again, but they will nearly always. I can't even, if they'll talk to you. Now, there are some people that won't talk to you, but if they will talk to you, they will tell you why they need this, either physically, financially, emotionally, because their body is so capable of correcting physical issues. And then, of course, that's directly connected with correcting financial issues, which you can explain and teach them as you go. But they tell you what's wrong every time, and you can just say, I've got something that could help you.
Dr. Ray, how do you broach that? How do you get people to tell you what they want?
Well, we're exactly the same. Exactly the same. I teach this as a sharing. I even hesitate to use the word business. It's a sharing industry. And that is, if you care about people, and Donnellyn said the same thing in her way, then in normal discussions, some of the greatest issues in people's lives are their health issues. And some of the other greatest problems in people's lives is their financial issues. I've got a gentleman living right next to me, next door, just moved in, Dennis from Sweden, and he used to manage international level restaurants, and he doesn't have a job anymore. Well, there's the question. I have a solution. He's now seriously looking at Asea. And so, again, he asked a question, and within the question is the answer. So when you understand something as powerful as redox signaling molecules and how it works on everything and provides solutions for every health condition you can ever care to consider, then it's just a matter of time in any conversation that people will bring up an issue. I wait for that. I don't. Donnellyn mentioned asking questions. Sure, you can ask the questions too, but even in normal conversation, without asking questions, they will soon start mentioning, what do you do? I'm a chiropractor naturopath. I share a health product. Oh, really? What is that product? I say, then I might say, do you have a problem? I say, oh, yeah, of course. And away you go. It's really just normal conversations, caring about people, providing the solutions that we already inherently have, whether it happens to be a financial potential solution to their difficulty. I mean, this gentleman's, left without work, and, he needs solutions. And I provided that, and already, in fact, he cornered me the other day to say, when can I start? I was waiting for him, thinking, I don't want to be pushy, but he'd been waiting for me. So it's just a natural process of sharing and caring. And I think something should be said along Donnellyn's line as well regarding the divine intervention. It's always fascinating to me how we do arrive through, some will call that divine intervention, some Jung, Carl Gustav Jung synchronicity, however you wish to say it. But, you do attract people, and you are attracted to other people, because it's almost like there's an undercurrent running through the world of connections, and we don't have to plan it. We don't have to plan it. We just have to get on for the ride. But we do have to recognize it. You do have to recognize opportunity, or it can just pass you straight on by. And I'm glad, equally as is Donnellyn, and I'm sure you, Dr. Lee, that I finally did pay attention. I thank Lorraine and Dan Doyle and Mal Sword and all these people that have come into my life since, including yourselves. I mean, what a privilege. What an absolute honour and privilege that I now have to travel the world and mix with the calibre of people that I share with and enjoy this journey with in Asea. So I thank the great Lord for that as well. And I just wouldn't miss this for the world. And I will do it to the day I'm no longer on this planet Earth.
Well, I appreciate the two of you joining with us tonight. Next week, we have Carolyn Hoffman as our guest, and so she'll charm us with her Asea wisdom. She's also on the medical board, as is Donna Lynn. I'm grateful for the both of you and for the great example that you give and the wisdom and the stories that you've shared with us tonight. That's been wonderful. This is as Jim always says, this is the fastest hour in Asea, I think.
Yes.
And it's fun to have you with us. To all of those who are watching or who are sharing this with others, get with the person who invited you. This is a remarkable advancement in both healthcare as well as in the opportunity to secure your financial future. And in these tough economic times around the planet, this is going to be an important thing going forward, that you're in charge of your own health and that you're in charge of your own finances. And this as a side hustle is one of the ways to do that. And so get with the person who invited you and learn more about this, get your questions answered, and don't be afraid to come join us. We appreciate that. Thanks again, Donnellyn, Dr. Ray.
Thank you, Lee.
Appreciate everybody being with us. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Bye-bye.